Hi, I'm Mike from 1A Auto. We've been selling auto parts for over 30 years.
Hey everyone, Sue here from 1A Auto. Today on our 06 Honda Element, we're going to be replacing a Serp belt tensioner. If you need that part or any other part for your car, click on the link below and head on over to 1aauto.com. I'm going to take two of these plastic pins out. There's one. The plastic clips on this car are all busted. They have been since the first day. So I'm replacing all of them. Hopefully you don't have this frustration and yours are working properly. I never thought I'd say make sure you're wearing safety glasses when you take plastic clips off. Now with all those clips out of the way, we can bring this plastic shield down enough that we can get to the belt. So now I'm going to bring the vehicle down and get from the top. I'm going to be removing this front mount. I've already have a floor jack underneath on this end with a wooden block on it, and I'm just snugging on top of the oil pan. Not a big fan about using the oil pan, but we're not going to actually be jacking or hoisting anything up. We're just supporting it, and we're probably going to move it up like 2 inches. So first thing I'm going to do is disconnect the 3 mounting bolts for this, and that's a 17mm socket. I already took the liberty of spraying these things down because it doesn't look like they've been off for years. You want that engine supported right now, even though you're just loosening these up, because the engine will actually start to, as the mount is on there, it will start to pivot down, and the bolts will get pressure on them, and you could end up crossing the threads, stripping it actually. So I could take the nut and the washer off. No, there's no washer. Take the nut off the side that's on this mount, and I can still work on the other 2 bolts. So now I can take the nut off that long stud. This side has a washer, definitely. There we go, several washers. And then the bolt. Now with the engine supported, I'm going to pull this, I have to take this ground strap off, 10mm. Now we can really see the Serp belt tensioner and how easy it's going to be in the movement that we have. It's a 14mm wrench. And I'm going to put pressure on it. Actually, I'm going to pull on it. And that releases the tension. Now I can slide the belt off. Bring that tensioner down. Get the belt out of my way. Now there's a crank down below and the AC compressor. That's why I took that plastic splash shield off earlier. Sometimes because the belt is so wide, you just have to twist it and guide it up, pull it out. There's 2 mounting bolts to the power steering pump, and they're a 12mm socket. They're really easy to get to. There's one right there, and then one directly below this pulley. You can just feel it with your hand. Like I said, it's a 12mm socket. Once you have those broken free. So now I'm going to take this, when I take this top bolt off, I'm going to set it aside and mentally make a mental note that that's for the top before I pull the bottom one out. And then I'll make sure that they're the same length before I mix them. This is not something you want to be feeling with what you can't see, and you're wondering why it wouldn't tighten up when you go to put it back together. It's too short. Okay, so let's see if they're the same length. And they are, they're identical. So now I know I can use either one on the top or bottom. Now just grab your power steering pump and just set it aside. Clear up clearly out of the way. And here we go. There is a hidden mounting bolt on this, and it's right inside here. So there's one in the front, one inside there, and then one below this pulley. They're all 12mm socket. One right here. I almost physically cannot see any of these. I can just feel them. I do not want to take the pulley off, because that would mean that I would have to take the pulley off the new one to install it, and I don't want to do that. So I think I see I'm going to need just a slight extension, I think. So I ended up using a 1-inch extension with a 3/4 inch deep socket. And now I can get in this easy. Get that front mounting bolt out of the way. Set that over here. I'm going to grab the one in the back. Take that back mounting screw out of the way, or bolt. Now the last one's the center one. That's the longest. You can lift it right up out of the way. Here we have our new Serp belt tensioner from 1A Auto. Comes with already mounted pulley bolted on there. This is the factory Serp belt tensioner, and you can see a lot wrong with this one. They're identical in design, except that this one is old and worn out. You can see when I go to spin this pulley, it stops because it's a sealed bearing, and it's not worn out yet. This one, the pulley's rusted, causing the belt to break down on the back side of the belt, and it makes a lot of noise. And the bearing is wasted. You can hear that. So if you need this part or any other part for your car, click on the link below and head on over to 1aauto.com. So now to install it, I'm going to reverse procedure. I'm going to put the center bolt in first. That way it will at least keep it centered and locate the other two mounting holes. Put the front one in first, and now the back one. Once you feel like you've got them all started, make sure they're not cross-threaded. We can take our 12mm socket and start tightening them up. Now that I have all three mounting bolts snug down, I'm going to torque them to the spec, and it is 16 foot-pounds. Just double check. It's not that tight, but there we go. Now we're ready to put the power steering pump back. These have just the two mounting bolts. Locate the threads and start them by hand. Then the last mounting bolt is the one on the bottom. Locate it. Tighten that right down. Once I have both mounting bolts snug down, the torque specs is the same as the tensioner, 16 foot-pounds. check. Now we're ready to I think I'm going to install the belt before I put the mount on. Even though we looked this belt up and I hoped, I put in that has power steering AC, I always double check before I go in there and get all frustrated. And I basically put my 2 thumbs in and confirm that they're pretty much the same length. There's no obvious difference here other than that this is worn out and this has got some kinks in it from packaging. So now we're clear to go ahead and install this. So I'm guiding the new belt, keeping it flat as I can so that I can guide it down between the actual car frame, or body shall I say, and the engine block. These can be a bit frustrating. So I'm going down below and I'm going to make sure that I can route it around the AC and the crank. And then I can take the top part of it and bring it around the water pump pulley. So once you have wrestled with that belt, you've got it all lined up, come up on the top here. And the new tensioner is a 15 millimeter, not a 14. And you're going to pull the tensioner. Before I let go of this tension, I'm going to make sure the belt is in all grooves. It's not mislined. I'm going to bring that tensioner down. Now it's time to reinstall the mount. First thing I'm going to do is take that ground strap off. I'm going to line up everything the best I can here before I lower the engine. Just going to snug that, make sure it's out of my way. And now with everything pretty much, at least it's on the long stud, I'm going to lower that engine slowly. I'm going to let it down in small portions, make sure it lines up. I'm going to put that bolt in before I let that jack completely down. And I'm going to thread those other 2 bolts on, nuts on. I'm going to add the washers that were on there. And put those on. Now I can just thread all the bolts and then 2 nuts down. My 17 millimeter socket. And don't forget to tighten up that 10 millimeter. Now it's clear to let the engine the rest of the way down. Remove your jack. Now I've got new clips to put in the splash shield. Just line up the holes and push the tab in. And there was 3 that we took out to do the drive belt. There we go.
Thanks for watching. Visit us at oneauto.com for quality auto parts, fast and free shipping, and the best customer service in the industry.